Hey guys, back at you again with another movie review, and today I'm going to be bringing you my thoughts on the latest from A24 and writer-director Celine Song, and that is Materialists, starring Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal. And this follows Dakota Johnson as Lucy, who is one of the most successful matchmakers in her company in New York City, and shows her meeting this man at one of the weddings that she set up, who is very well off, well-to-do, and she is infatuated, played by Pedro Pascal. And then, of course, her ex-boyfriend, who comes into the picture while at this wedding, and sort of the rekindlement of, their connection to each other, in this case played by Chris Evans. And who is she going to choose between the two? Well, you have to see the movie for yourself and see how it plays out. And I will say, like I said in my out-of-theater reaction, the trailer for this movie didn't really impress me all too much. It didn't look bad. I thought, okay, this might be an enjoyable rom-com. But knowing Celine Song made Past Lives, which was so sublime in so many different ways, I'm not surprised at hearing what I heard going into this movie, that it was anything but that. And walking out of it, I was still surprised at everything that kind of unfolded in this narrative. I really do think that Celine Song has struck gold again here with Materialist, which is so far one of my absolute favorite movies of the year, I'm going to say right off the top. And I want to say something even crazier, at least for me. I'm not saying that this is a better movie in some ways, because there's some criticisms I have with it that I don't have with Past Lives. But I probably like it slightly more. I think I just like the way the story flowed, and also how it was put together. From a technical standpoint, I really do think she perfected the craft here, especially because of the work of D.P. Shabier-Kirshner, who also shot Past Lives, but just the way the camera moves so fluidly around these rooms and the takes that she gets, the blocking is so much more precise and effective than it was in Past Lives. And I think that's another thing I enjoyed about this story, where they moved around to. There were a lot of different locations where I felt like this movie got to breathe a little bit more than Past Lives, and I know that that's not necessarily what that film was going for, but I liked, everywhere that they went in this film. It just felt that much more alive to me in so many ways, and I think the performances have a lot to do with that. Dakota Johnson, of course, predictably great as per usual. When she is in good material, of course, this is definitely where she shines, and I think one of her better performances from recent memory. She really makes you empathetic with a character who, on the surface, is quite shallow. I'm not going to deny that. It isn't really a spoiler. I'm just saying how it is in the story. And I think she has a very difficult tightrope act to walk, but I think she does it beautifully. But really, I think Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal are utilized so well here. I think their best performances on film, and I think this is the best Chris Evans has ever been in anything. Really, that guy gets to do so much emotionally when he's not all perfectly put together like he was as Captain America. His character is kind of scrappy in ways that I wasn't expecting, but also very tender in ways that really endear himself to the audience. And I really, really do appreciate and love the work that Chris Evans do here. You really get to see a great emotional range from this guy. And obviously everything he's in, you can tell he's talented, but this is just a notch above anything he's ever done before. And I really, really loved his work in here. One of my favorite supporting performances of the year for sure. And then you got Pedro Pascal, who is so effortlessly charming in this, maybe even more so than anything I've ever seen him in, playing up to the idea that in this universe he is a unicorn, this rich, well-off-to-do man, tall, handsome, charming, one in a million, you could say. And I love how he's able to play into the charm that has made him so appealing, but also subvert it in very, very surprising ways. I really, really love what they do with his character by the end of this story. And it really is one that I think another reason why I'm, so enamored by this movie, enjoyed it so much, is I could never see where this was going. Especially for a film that works within the confines of the rom-com framework. I'd almost be hesitant to even call it a rom-com. I think it's more of a romantic drama. Sure, there's a lot of funny beats and moments, but really at its core, I think it's a very human story about these deeply flawed and insecure individuals, and I think that's what makes this story so effective. I guess it's a time-old adage that, people are not as what they seem to be on the surface, but really I think that it is explored in so many nuanced and surprising ways I didn't expect or see coming at all. But it makes sense how, when you're in a relationship, these things start to reveal themselves, maybe even from the get. But I do like that this movie isn't afraid to explore some very messy territory and some dark territory, quite frankly. I really, really loved what they did with this. But also another performance I absolutely have to shout out is Zoe Winters as one of the clients that Lucy takes on in this movie. And I honestly think this is the best supporting performance of the entire year. I think she's legitimately Oscar worthy, at least deserving of an Oscar nomination. And I think she steals the movie from underneath everybody in her limited screen time that she's there. And I also really love how this movie, I don't think, disregards a lot of, more minor characters. Especially, at the beginning I thought, oh, maybe this is going to be something, this one character was going to be something that's kind of written out of the movie. But no, like, they become an integral part of the story. And I just love when scripts, go out of their way to tie everything together so nicely in ways that really, challenge and subvert your expectations, right? And also just all the little details that are set up throughout this delicious screenplay, I think really, really make the ride all that more enthralling and exciting. And I will say, I do have a few criticisms with this movie, only a few, and I'll address maybe a little bit of why other people might not enjoy it as much or have not been enjoying it as much as Past Lives. I think some of the dialogue, it is very heightened, and that's fine. But there are a couple moments where it feels a little awkward or cheesy, and yet again, I can get over it because I think it kind of goes with the territory and the tone that they're going for with the comedy in this movie. But there are a couple instances where it does stick out a little bit, not in a great way. I think some of the conversations that are had get a little repetitive, at least near the beginning of the movie. I think luckily it smooths out by the end, especially when it comes to adding up the math. You'll know what I mean when you see the movie. But it is one of those things where after a while it did kind of, not ruin it for me, but it did annoy me. But the thing that I didn't mind about a lot of the stuff that I'm saying is how the scenes would play out. I'd be like, alright, well, let me just see what they do with this and how they wrap it up. And more than often that they would inject some sort of surprising turn when it comes to, the emotional resonance of the scene and what the characters are saying and how things conclude. It's a perfect example of how to write great banter while revealing character at the same time. And there's a lot of great banter, trust me. There's some steamy scenes just between a couple people talking, especially the scene where Dakota Johnson and Pedro Pascal, their characters, meet for the first time. Really, really great stuff. That's when I knew I was loving this movie. But there are a couple of things here that might rub people the wrong way, so I've been reading. And look, I didn't mind what they did with the story. I will say that the way they wrap up certain things might seem a little bit strange, but I think, yet again, the way it was handled, I don't think it was handled in poor taste at all, some of the stuff that they kind of dive into in this movie. And that's the thing, the fact I'm even bringing this up in a movie that's supposed to be a rom-com, that's what I'm saying, there's a lot more to it than you would expect. And I also really love the fact that, like Past Lives, None of these guys are villainized, and you can understand legitimate reasons why she would pick either one of them. And yet again, it really challenges your preconceived notions of what, you know, we think these characters are. And I think that's brilliant. The fact that it's able to go to these places. I mean, look, love isn't an exact science. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. It's messy, and that's okay. Because really, at the end of the day, we all kind of have to figure ourselves out and what we're going through and what we want. And I think that's what this movie portrays beautifully. Yet again, I want to see this again just to see how it stacks up. But even with the criticisms that I do have with it, I do feel like that this story I can really relate to, and I just think a lot of the best moments of this movie are absolutely transcendent. Celine Song really knocked it out of the park once again with this film, and I really can't wait to see what she does from this point forward, because I think her voice is one that is so distinct and so greatly felt. You know, the level of empathy that she puts into her characters, just the level of depth that is on display in the way it is structured, and how these characters really, you know, get to show who they are through their actions on the screen. It's just really terrific writing all across the board. And I'm so glad that movies are finally coming back. I mean, this year didn't start off too great, but I think we're kind of settling into quite a great groove, I must say myself. And Materialists is certainly one that adds fuel to that fire. And I'm going to give Materialist a 9 out of 10. This is one of the absolute best movies of the year. Easily one of my favorites that I've seen, theatrically speaking, that has been released probably after Sinners. Give you a little early disclaimer here and insight into what I'm thinking. But yeah, I really loved what she did with this film once again, and yeah, anything she's going to do from now on, I'm going to be absolutely excited for, and I'm really glad to see these actors get a chance to shine in a way a lot of them I don't think have on screen to date. But you guys let me know what you thought about Materialist down in the comments below. Did you like this as much as Past Lives? Did it really fall far below expectations for you? Let me know all that and more, and please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. Not sure if I'm going to review How to Train Your Dragon, but if I do, I do. You'll see it on here. But anyways, stay in the loop for so many videos on the horizon and more, and I will talk to you guys very soon.